Time for another Roo Tale. Today we're going to talk about something that happened to a guy in a shop that I worked in California a number of years ago. We'll call him Surfer Dude. And Surfer Dude was a field installer, so he was out doing a lot of work outside in the field quite often. And when he wasn't at work, spent his time surfing at the beach. So he came into the shop one day and decided to use one of the machines in the shop. So it was a hydraulic punch, a Whitney punch, and the kind of punch that he was using was the kind that if you press the button, then the punch goes through a complete cycle, and once it goes through that cycle, then it reverses. So it's not one of those things that's easy for you to stop once you've set it in motion. So whether he was in a hurry or wasn't sure about what size die to use, he put a 13/16 punch in, and then instead of putting a 27/32 die, which is what he should have put in there, he put a die in that was too small. It was slightly smaller than the size of the punch. So what happened was then when he stuck his piece of metal in there and he hit the punch, well, the punch started down through the cycle, and when it got to the point where it tried to go through into the die was too small. So what happened then was that it shattered the punch. So the punch, when it came down, hit that, shattered, and a piece of it shot through into the inside of his arm, almost to his main artery there. If it had been an eighth of an inch closer, he probably would have bled out before we could have got him to the hospital. So it was a very, very genuinely dangerous situation. Now we bundled him up, got him to the doctor, got the piece of punch extracted out of his arm. No worse thing happened than he had a few stitches, and that was that. But if he had been that much closer to that main artery, he would have most likely bled out. So here's the thing that you want to pay attention to, is every machine, regardless of what the machine is, whether it's a Portaband, whether it's a punch, whether it's a welding machine, everything has a certain amount of information about it that you need to know. And you need to pay close attention to what's going on when you're using that piece of machinery. Now this is true right up to and including cranes and all the rest of it. There's a certain amount of information you need to have, and there are things that are important to which you need to be paying attention. So when you walk up to a machine, make sure that you first know what the various things are about that machine that you need to know in order to make sure to operate that machine safely. Don't just assume that, well, I can figure this out on the fly. Maybe you need to get someone who's got more familiarity with the machine to help you set it up. In this particular case, if he had known or had checked, he would have realized, doing the math, that the size of the die was going to be wrong for the size of the punch. Now, he probably couldn't have had any idea, perhaps ahead of time, unless he had a lot of experience in the past with punches, as to what was going to happen next. But in this particular case, he put the wrong size die for the punch in the wrong situation, and as a result of that, injured himself badly, that he had to be transported and had to have some stitches. Could have died had that been any worse than what it was. So realize that every machine, regardless of what the machine is, has its peculiarities. You need to know what those peculiarities are. You need to know how to operate that machine safely. If you need instruction, you need to ask somebody who has experience and can give you some instruction. Might be your competent person, could be your foreman. Whoever it is, find somebody who can help you and help you get the right parts together so that incidences like this don't occur. As it is in this case, had he had better information, maybe had he been paying more attention, maybe had he done the math, he would not have gotten himself in the situation where the punch shattered, went into his arm, and created the issues that it did. So bear that in mind. All the machinery that we operate has peculiar things about it that you need to know. If you have any doubts, any reservations, any questions, ask your competent person, ask your foreman, get some instruction so that you can be safe when you're using the various pieces of machinery that we have to use.